the ICC has taken upon themselves to create these Incoterms, which is short for International Commercial Terms, so that we can all use them. We all have a baseline of understanding of what they are and how we can best put them in our contracts. So they are revised every 10 years. They were just updated in 2020, so the latest version is 2020. You may see like old materials based on the 2010 version. There's not, I'll be honest, I don't really remember the changes. I did a couple years ago when it changed, but I don't recall now exactly what the changes were. It was a couple. It wasn't anything major between 2010 and 2020. But just understand that whenever you're using these terms in your trade agreement, your purchase agreement, or your logistics agreement, you should define which year the Incoterms are referring to so that everybody has that understanding. So Incoterms are a set of 11 rules for defining terms and what those terms mean in regards to the responsibilities for the parties to the contract. This is going to be things like the parties being the buyer, the seller, importer, exporter, the transport, maybe one or two other parties in the supply chain for like the deliveries and whatnot. But it basically will assign the tasks, the costs, and the obligations and responsibilities and the risks that each of those parties has according to each term, each rule that you define. I'm not going to get into the rules, in technical details right now because, frankly, they're kind of boring. It's not something I really enjoy talking about in particular. But I've had questions, like folks who we've looked at some of their trade agreements, and they tell us they want a certain type of delivery process, and then we look at the agreement they've drafted or they've used previously, and they do not correctly describe it in their trade agreement, in their purchase agreement. So we have to educate them about that and make sure that we revise those terms to meet the industry standards and make sure that it is adequately describing the process that they expect and that they want. And the reason that's important is that if you put an incorrect term in there, an Incoterm, for instance, if you put like X works as opposed to free on board or something, I'm trying to remember a few of the others, but anyways, what happens is that you are assigning responsibilities. You're assigning insurance responsibilities to certain parties. When the goods are on the ship, is the insurance the responsibility of the seller or is it the responsibility of the buyer? And depending on which Incoterm you have chosen, that will assign that responsibility, right? For ensuring the shipment goes as it's coming across the ocean or whatever, or coming on a truck. So missing that definition or misunderstanding it, and oops, something happens and the shipment is not insured, and you find out, oops, I meant for it to mean this, but accidentally, I put the wrong term because I didn't understand it, and it was my responsibility to insure it, and now it's gone. You're out of luck. You will not have rights to try and collect against the seller, right, or whatever, whomever you thought was supposed to insure it when it was your responsibility. So that's why it's important. And one other bullet point I had here is that they change by transport channel. So, which is interesting, right? So if it's coming across the ocean, it's going to have a certain set of Incoterms. If it's coming by land, by truck, it's going to have its own set of Incoterms. Ocean's going to have the most. Trucking, I think, has the second most. And then inland waterways. So inland water channels like rivers and things like that, that's going to have its own Incoterms, and I think that has the least, if I remember right. But yeah, so that's Incoterms really in a nutshell. That's why they're important. If we can help you understand those, and maybe you need a second pair of eyes on your contract, your purchase agreement, to make sure that your understanding of the responsibilities and the risks matches what the legalese is, please reach out to us. That's what we do every day. We help business owners, importers, and exporters understand those terms, mitigate risks, and get their product to where it needs to be safely, securely, and legally, right, compliant. So reach out to us. We'd love to hear your story and figure out how we can help you, and take care of you. So have a great day, and until next time, we'll see you then.